liked you better with glasses.
Too bad. I like me better without them.
Hey, pretty fans. Welcome to another episode of the Better with Glasses podcast. I'm your host, Vicky Bazzalia, and with me is Casey.
Hey.
And we just watched the first episode.
Yeah, this is like, you can't be treating this like a regular old episode. This is like the arrival. When season 1 came out, we had no anticipation for it.
Mm-hmm.
You watched it a month after it came out.
Yep.
It's like we were never in the first exciting time when it came out. So This is the first time where we're able to live inside of that kind of zeitgeisty moment while it's breathing, you know? So it's amazing that we actually got here.
Yeah.
Because there's been so much build up to it.
Yeah.
10 months practically.
Well, this episode we saw at the premiere.
We're going to do our best to make it seem like we don't know what happens in season 2, episode 2 and episode 3. So the episode starts with a scene that we've seen 100 times. Yeah.
In the teaser.
It's like Belly laying down, Conrad coming up and
shaking water on her. They just got back from surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you see that. You can tell it's a dream. We already knew it was a dream. We suspected it was a dream because of the book. But you can tell it's a dream because even if the Belly and Conrad part is believable, then Jeremiah is like, you guys are into each other. He would not.
It seems
be happy
very
for them.
Yeah.
No, and then when they cut to Susanna, she's like, don't listen to him. You guys are perfect. Like she does it so campy.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh yeah, this is all fake.
This is all rainbows
and
her book falls off the table.
Yeah, and then you see Belly in school. Which you guessed, right? You're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we actually saw them in different elements? And
get ready for it because
it was a little jarring for me. It's
a
totally different tone.
It's a different show.
Yeah.
Like season 1 is all in this confined space, very fun, very beachy, very
like it's very feel good.
Yeah, very feel goody.
Yeah.
All of it is so feel goody. The whole show.
Yeah.
Episode 1. It's kind of like it's all happy, bright colors, everything.
Yeah.
Season 2 is like a real live television show.
Yeah.
Much more dramatic, but it's much more reliant on the main characters.
Okay, so after the daydream, then you get a flashback to Belly and Conrad right after their kiss on the beach in the end of the last episode. You get them walking in. Susanna sees them holding hands, so now Susanna knows about those two. You get a flashback afterwards to Belly going upstairs to Jeremiah to address the Conrad thing that just happened.
And he's like thinking they're still together.
So we were debating that, and he clearly was like, I think we'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, I think we should tell everyone about us.
Yeah.
And then he throws back at her the we of her and Conrad, which is great, right?
Yeah. The audience knows that her and Conrad were just on the beach kissing, talking about being together, and now Jeremiah thinks that they're together.
Yeah. Jeremiah does not react well, which we know. I guess chronologically, then afterwards you see Belly with Conrad on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
He's changed, right? So it's like later in the day.
Yep, later
He's very upset about Jeremiah's reaction. Mm-hmm. And she's like, we shouldn't do this.
Pump
like, I feel so bad. We got to pump the brakes. He doesn't want to, but he understands the rationale of it. He gives her the infinity necklace. Mm-hmm. You get Susanna and Belly. So that's the only reason that I mentioned how happy Susanna was to see them coming off the beach. And she was like, I knew it. Because then you get a Susanna and Belly scene. And it might be, I don't know, we'll see. But it might be the only Susanna and Belly that we get of those two together.
Yeah.
Before
I don't think there's going to be much Susanna
away.
In general.
Yeah. I mean, in flashbacks, but we'll see how those look and how those come off. But did you cry during that scene? The very first time?
Which one?
The Susanna and Belly.
No.
You didn't? Okay. I like that they put it in there, and I like that she immediately just says, Conrad told me about you and the boys. So Conrad's already told Susanna, because Susanna's really excited for them. And Conrad was like, yeah, well, there's this thing with Jeremiah, and like we just decided to not.
Well, Susanna is definitely on Team Conrad.
Yeah, I think so.
We got some
Yeah.
school stuff, maybe.
Yeah, no. So after that, then you get a cut back to current times where it's Steven's graduation day.
Hey.
So you see them like kind of getting ready for it. You get to see that Steven is valedictorian,
Yes, he is.
right? Of what is it, Chesterbrook?
CHS, I think. Yeah, Chesterbrook.
Yeah, Chesterbrook. And he's giving his speech. So he's giving his speech. What
Great
else?
speech by my guy.
It was a great speech. It was a
Yeah.
great speech. I guess at some point before the speech itself, you see, it was heartbreaking.
The gift basket.
The gift basket.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, Belly like goes and opens the door, and she's like, "It's from Susanna."
That's a very Susanna thing.
It's such a Susanna thing to do, and when it's one of the nice things. I've been lucky. I haven't really known a lot of people who have had cancer, but like when you know and you can kind of like
forecast,
not forecast, but like get to a point where you're okay with it in some sense. Like you can start, like it's not sudden. I guess the diagnosis can be sudden, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can get your affairs in order, and that's just Susanna's way. So it was a nice little touch. The reason I bring that up is because we later on find out that Stephen inserted into his speech like a direct quote from the letter that came with the gift. So there's that. After the graduation, they all go to lunch, and we see Conklins all together. It's a cute scene.
Very.
We don't see that family dynamic a lot, and I like the fortune cookie thing where Steven's like, it says I'm like the best person in the world.
Steven is the comedy of the show. He gives it brevity. He lightens the mood. He's always got like my man could be I think he's got a great career ahead of him with across multiple genres.
Sean, we'll talk about it in the next episode, but they actually have an open dialogue about how people grieve.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
And you're right. He's not like, I don't think they're making him a clown, right? He's just, he has grief, but you know, all these characters are more or less going through the exact same thing, but they're processing it differently. And he is in this very serious, sad episode, like he is the light of it.
Absolutely.
Which is great. You find out that Laurel has written a book about Susanna's passing. You can tell she did it, I think, as a form of catharsis. And she's like, she doesn't want attention from it.
Well, that's one of the themes of the first episode and what we've seen so far is Laurel isn't herself. Her best friend has obviously passed away, and she is lost. She is, I don't know, coming up short on the mother end of things. Kind of also putting her career on the back burner.
Do you think those two crazy kids are gonna find their way back to each other, her and John? Or are they just friends?
Her and Daddy?
Yeah.
Listen, as much as I love Cleveland Castillo, I'm all for, you know, the OG.
Yeah.
The OG.
Yeah.
Conklin. So.
Yeah, or contradictory to that, later on in the same episode, Belly's talking about the dynamic between her mom and dad, and they're there for each other and they're friends, but there's not sparks, there's not electricity. So he just might be a very good person for her, like being her cheerleader, which is the other part of that scene that's kind of funny. Anyway, so then you have the lunch. Steven leaves lunch early because he's planning his party.
Big party. So we know what's a big event coming up.
I remember you saying it because you're like, oh, Taylor's juiced. It was like about the other party in season 1. And she's like so excited for this one because her boyfriend is in the band and making his debut at Steven's party. So she is really excited because Belly, after hearing Steven's speech, was like, yeah, maybe I'll try. Like I'll actually try to like get dressed up and put myself out there. And there's a great scene of Taylor and Belly getting ready.
Yeah, that's funny stuff.
Yeah.
Taylor is also another light in the show when, you know, there's a lot of sad stuff going on.
Yeah. We talked about how like the assassination of the characters, like Jenny did a good job cleaning up some of the messiness.
Yeah.
And in book 2, Taylor's like not very supportive. Like she's trying to do her best, but she just keeps saying move on, move on, move on. There's like very little empathy on her part, and that doesn't exist in this. So like she has her like Taylor moments, but when she looks over and sees that Belly's like really in her thoughts or like
Yeah,
having
she's a great
sad
friend.
moment,
Taylor's a great friend.
she addresses it. But anyway, so they're dressing up Belly. What is it? What's the line that I like? She's like, "Oh yeah,
I need you to be my hot friend next to me, hot girlfriend
of
the whatever,
yeah." And she's like, "Yeah, let's just go Uber on." It's great.
Really
Lola's amazing. Okay, so then you see them rifling through the clothes. Belly, there's a Cousins Rowing T-shirt.
Yep.
That's there, and she falls into another flashback.
A lot of flashbacks in this episode. That's why it's like you got to be hip to the game because there's a lot of timelines going on here.
Well, not to again spoil too much. I'm not going to say it. We're led to believe that when she sees that shirt and she says, I think she says to Taylor, like, every time I see this, it hurts. We're led to believe that the immediate they do this a lot, but the immediate flashback that comes after it, which is him calling, it's like he's wearing the shirt on her like phone. Is we're not going to necessarily break down that scene because we've already done it, but it's when he calls her.
Trade homework.
Yeah, they've decided to cool it on behalf of Jer. They start having like a phone, not relationship, but like a friendship. And you're led to believe that moment and Trig, talking about Trig is the reason why that shirt reminds her of something, and it's not. There's like more significance to that shirt in particular.
Yes. But they're just giving you a taste.
They're giving you a taste, exactly. But it's very well weaved in. Then what else? So then we get to party. This party just feels different. Like all the parties, like in the beach, was a different vibe.
I mean, it felt like a house party.
But I will say it. No, I'm just saying because of the sadness of Belly. Like Belly is the main character, right? So she, for me at least, she drives the feeling of the entire arc.
Okay.
So like, yeah, Taylor's excited. She's like making out with her boyfriend. She's in a new relationship and she's happy, which is totally fine. Steven just got into Princeton, this is grad party, and he's happy. His friends are all happy for him. But like the tone of the entire episode is still based on Belly and her thoughts. Like,
I disagree. I would say that I think that I'm picking up on
at least how I saw it.
Yeah.
Like I was upset at Taylor.
But I'm going into it thinking it's Steven just graduated. He's about to go to Princeton. He's feeling himself.
Yeah.
So that's the energy I'm getting.
Yeah. I guess for me, I'm just saying I empathize so much that I like whatever the opposite of rose-colored glasses is.
Belly looks great. Belly's out there working it.
She looks great.
She looks great. She's feeling confident.
Yeah, like I know you don't love the volleyball content with the girls and all that, but so it's a plot device.
It's a plot device. Yeah. They talk. I'm not sure what episode it's revealed in, but you know she lost her captaincy in volleyball.
It's in
episode 1. Yeah. So you know she messed up at regionals, but losing a captaincy, no one would take that away because of a performance thing. You get your captaincy revoked because you have done something detrimental to chemistry or broke rules or something along those lines.
You're not being leaderful.
Not being
later on find out is
not being a leader. So yeah, I mean, but we're introduced to some new teammates.
Yeah.
And they were at the school. This is like they got a bunch of scenes.
Yeah.
The new volleyball teammates.
But it's like I said, it's a plot device, but it's designed to show you that she's trying to break out, like come back to
and
she was.
They did Corey Wheeler a solid. I mean, he's kind of like played off as a bozo in the book, but he's a pretty cool guy in the show.
Yeah, he's fine. He walks past, looks at her, and of course Taylor is like, bye Conrad, like go shoot your shot. And she obliges, right?
Yeah.
She's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna go try. There's a great scene of her trying to flirt with
Yeah,
him.
Belly. So that scene, that whole party stuff with Belly, Lola does some real heavy lifting with facial expressions and, you know, moves that are made to appear spur of the moment, but their choices by her acting and her flow, and she just does a really great job of showing her range.
And there's a lot of looks there. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Milo, just because Jenny in the bonus content, I don't think you saw the bonus content on this one, but Jenny said it was important for me to cast somebody who would be okay live singing, not lip syncing, but like live singing. So that was important. She's like, and he can sing. You said like it was nice that he's not gonna make it, guys, right? Because that's kind of like another like small plot device. Yeah.
Like he's a perfectly okay singer, and he's got the, you know, it's more about his look and that thing. I think it's suiting for
Taylor,
the Taylor vibe, yeah. And
the total antithesis, right, of Steven.
Yeah. But Steven's got a little, he's feeling some kind of way that, regardless of. Oh, how about Steven bringing up Minnie Mills, Shayla, in the graduation?
I hated that.
In the graduation
I
speech.
hated that.
Me too. I'm like, I think he may be stronger, but he pulls himself out of it and uses it to.
Yeah. It's kind of like ain't that some shit moment? Like it's like, yeah, life just sucks sometimes. Like sometimes, and he just like, it's almost like a tangent.
Well, I think it's an example of, no offense, bad writing. They're telling instead of
letting it be assumed.
You have to know that some people are going to have to know that Shayla's not around.
That's true.
So
that's true. Yeah. Okay, what did you think of Armageddon and Taylor?
Heavy 90s action.
Yeah.
Heavy 90s music. I thought that was a choice. Is that when the books were released? Like,
no.
Well, listen, classic jams takes me back to my childhood. But I don't know how these guys know about that. Armageddon was dropped in like 99. But think about you, like it would be like a movie from 1985.
I can get down with 1985.
All right, but you know what I'm saying, like Sean Kaufman, they're led to believe they're 18, graduating. The year's 2023. So we're talking about something 6 or 7 years before they were born.
I don't know. Well, okay. Well, I'll do you one better.
Okay.
Maybe that needed to happen because Steven seems like a guy who would know old music, and Taylor seems like a girl who definitely doesn't know old music, and it fits.
It does track.
Right, that tracks. So Taylor's like,
yo, he wrote this song about me.
Oh my god, he wrote this song about me.
Isn't that romantic? That's a great line. Taylor, man, you're gonna get annoyed with me saying how good Taylor is, but that's great. She has the best lines.
Jenny already said she loves writing things for Taylor because they don't have to be any one thing, right? She's like a free character.
Yeah, Taylor's.
So Steven.
She's over here and she's over here. She's like that classic Tara Reid, American Pie kind of like bits girl, but then she also is very profound in certain moments.
Yeah,
and she's a great friend. And
okay, so there's all that. Then Belly and Steven get into a fight.
Oh, another great scene.
The whole back half of the party is like, it's weird for me to say that it's rewatchable. Maybe I just like drama, but
it is rewatchable.
It's so.
I mean, you get to the party and the energy is great.
Yeah,
like the energy is, you want to be there. And in radio and TV, you're always trying to create Me Too moments. That's what we try and do. You want the listener to think Me Too, or I thought that, or I've been that person. So you have a great vibe at a party. You're like, love to be there.
Yeah.
And
what are your Me Too moments from the party?
I've never actually been to a house party that has a band on a stage, but that looked fun.
Yeah.
On a half pipe.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's the whole setup. And one other thing I was surprised about, a surprisingly small graduating class for Stevens High School. Like I thought my graduating class was small. We had like 120 kids.
Yeah.
But this one would look like 40 maybe.
Yeah.
And then to look at the party, there's probably only 50 people there. So a little bit of a smaller town gives you a little insight into how much the friendship really means to Belly, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I think just the lighting was great. It looked like a really good time, and it kind of brings you back to when everyone's going back off to college for the first time and high school's finally over, and those feelings that you get.
From a Belly perspective, she gets, so she's sat at a party, right? Show of hands if you've ever been sat at a party before. Me. She is the DD.
Okay, but it was like very, very specifically called a sober driver, like 6 times. So if they use DD once, when I was growing up, it was called a DD. But
we got to make sure that the actual designated person is sober.
Yeah, so there's a distinction now: sober driver as opposed to designated driver, because the designated driver could be drinking too, and that ain't cool.
Exactly. Being the DD and like
that's tough.
Not being the DD, not wanting to be at the party, and your friends are drunk, and now getting to the point where they're like belligerently drunk, like
tough place to be.
I like having a drink, and it's fun. And I'm not saying you can't have fun if you're sober, but when you really don't want to be at a party, and
you're like,
and everyone's starting to like lose it a little bit, like you're just like, I gotta get out of here. So I understand. And she just had this really embarrassing moment with Corey where she tried to kiss him, and completely has a wrong read on the situation. So that's different from the book, but her reaction afterwards, she's like, oh yeah, you and Marcy, you two together, great, I'm just gonna go over here. But okay, so let's talk about the Steven and Belly fight. Lola said that was her favorite moment from the entire first 3 episodes.
Yeah, I mean,
she acted her ass off.
So
they both did.
They are very talented, and they really get to the core of things. And it's telling because you could say some hurtful shit in the heat of battle, but then when you see your sister crying, I think that's like the ultimate weakness spot for a brother or for Steven in general, because we've seen that a few times. And
what were your thoughts on, like, do you think he's team Jeremiah, or do you, like,
I think he's team make up your fucking mind and stop making it messy for me.
Agreed. Okay. Well, because he straight up says, right, he's like, you already had Jeremiah and you just had to have Conrad. And that, like,
but he didn't mean that.
He didn't mean that. He doesn't mean that.
And then Belly like corrects him.
Oh my gosh, in like a huge way.
Like, because last season he was like, you've been like gaga for Conrad since you were 10, and he says that, but he doesn't mean it. And then Belly reaffirms that, and he's like, oh yeah, you're right, actually. Belly, I'm sorry.
Well, not just that, right? But it's like, this is not right after the summer. This is the following summer. So for him to say, oh no, like, you just had to have Conrad too, and she's like, well, sorry, what did you want me to do? I was like out of my mind in love. You see spliced in all the love. And then you also learn that they had a real relationship. Belly storms off crying at the party.
You get the best scene.
Well, you get a Taylor. Well, let's talk about the Taylor.
Scene, Taylor goes out there.
That's a very good scene.
So another spot where you get to see Taylor being the friend that Belly needs. She goes after her.
Yeah. There's where I started to get emotional. I was way emotional during the driving scene, which we'll talk about. But where it started to like well up is when Belly's talking to Taylor, and she's like, I know it's a lot of it's my fault. I messed a lot of things up. I wish none of it ever happened. And Taylor's like, no, you don't. Like all the experiences that you had some of them are really nice and really good, and you should treasure those. But then Belly says, like, I'm just so tired of being sad all the time. And like the way that Lola delivers it is like so heartbreaking. And she gets in the car
Mm-hmm.
Beat drop.
Uh,
Driver's license.
Driver's License, Olivia Rodrigo, best musical moment of the episode, most emotional moment in the theater for me. It was the highlight of the first episode for me.
You said because they just like
they let it ride on her, like
they ran tape.
Yeah, they like
forever.
Put the camera on Belly, have the song playing, and it's literally 45 seconds just watching her crying and driving.
And then like the buildup of the cry, because that's how it happens, right? Like when you're driving and you're alone and you're emotional, it like starts off very like
I mean, I think
and then it's just like at the end
we've all had those moments. I remember being alone on Christmas one time and driving. Yeah, I remember I mean, I don't know if I was crying, but I remember just being sad and alone on Christmas one time.
Yeah.
And that was the part that I cried in the theater.
That part. Yeah. It was sad. I didn't cry. That's neither here nor there.
But that was a great, I mean, musical wise, great choice.
Yeah. There's well, you also said that you cried in the next scene. You see Belly comes home, she's telling her mom that she really wishes that she had been around more. We knew this from the book, but Laurel spent a lot of time apparently between Summer and Susanna passing away, taking care of Susanna, helping her get her affairs in order with the boys, like all that stuff. Belly kind of says like it's like, don't, like, my guidance counselor called you today, like don't put that shit on me now, like this has been happening, right? Like I don't think she's making excuses for herself. She's just like, oh, my guidance counselor called you today, like I've been failing for months, like I've had issues for months. She's like, you never came to a single volleyball game of mine, and now you're like upset that I'm not on the volleyball team anymore.
This wasn't the second scene. That second scene
is when after that she's reading
the note from Susanna, and it's revealed that some of Stephen's speech was taken from the note, and that was a very emotional moment as well. Yeah.
Well, Susanna says in it like, you have the greatest mom or something like that.
So essentially you're getting a Belly fight with Stephen, a Belly big cry with Olivia Rodrigo, and then a Belly big fight with Laurel. Yeah. Like bam, bam, bam. Yeah. And then she goes upstairs, and you kind of get the cliffhanger that's needed in any good television show. Yeah. Is she's going through pictures. There's a voiceover, I think. And
it's a voiceover from the book. She said it's hard for her to like think of them as separate people, even though they're all separated. Like one's dead, like the brothers aren't really talking. She's estranged from both of them.
Yeah, that right there, no offense, Belly, is a good enough reason to not. Yeah, but she's like she can't separate them in her mind. She's like looking through pictures because they're practically family.
Yeah.
So she grabs her phone.
Yep.
And she calls someone.
Yeah.
And we don't know who it is.
Yeah.
And then you cut to a boy picking up a phone. And I think people were led to believe it's Conrad. Because Jeremiah's basically not in the entire episode, except for the first scene. Yeah. And then, but Conrad's in it a lot, which you're going to talk about some of the Conrad scenes, because they're got the internet going gaga. So you think it's Conrad, but no, it's Jeremiah's back in the picture.
Yeah.
And Conrad's missing. She's like, "Oh, are you calling me because you're with Conrad?"
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Why would I be with Conrad? Yeah. Conrad's missing. I gotta go find him. I'm gonna come with you.
It's one of those things where I'm like, Jenny is really smart.
She in her bag, bro.
But the reason I say this, right, is like there is a very small part of me. There's a very small part of me that wishes I didn't read the books.
Aww.
Because some of the magic is kind of like gone when you've read the book, and I did feel that way. Like there was a difference between me discovering the show and like me being half expectant about things that are gonna happen.
And I think that some of the scenes in future episodes are unnecessary because they're just doing service to the people who did read the books.
We'll talk about that, but I guess what I mean is like when I went back and rewatched it, when she's crying to Taylor, she like rifles through all the things that she fucked up, and she said the funeral. She doesn't say what happened at the funeral. She just says the funeral. For me, I was like, yes, we're gonna get the funeral scene. But the fact, like, if you are somebody who didn't read the book, you just hear something happened at the funeral, right? You don't know that it's with Conrad.
Yeah.
So it's totally believable that the hand picking up the phone is Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, I'm like, oh, the magic is dead because I know that it can't be Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
But what did throw me for a loop, because that's where I go back to Jenny's smart. Jenny's like, all right, the book girls already know that it's going to be Jeremiah on the other end of the line. We already know that, right? And you know that from the trailer too. But I was jarred. We had a small argument over this just because I was so stuck in my book brain. You're like, she calls Jeremiah. I'm like, no. Jeremiah called her. And you're like, no, like rewatch it. And yeah, we had to dissect that a little bit. Like I needed it to make sense in my head. I'm like, why would she call Jeremiah?
She was just in her feelings.
I've thought about it a lot. She was looking at the pictures, right? Just talk about
her and Jeremiah have less relationship history together, more friend history.
She literally called the only person she could.
In that moment, she needed to call someone as a friend. Yes.
She can't call. Well, I guess she could call Taylor, but Steven.
Taylor's drunk.
Okay, Taylor's drunk.
Mm.
Can't just fought with Steven. Just fought with mom.
Yep. Suzanne's dead.
We know from funeral. Can't talk to Conrad. I literally said I'd never want to talk to you ever again.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah,
book people do.
But can't call him. So
it's
a setup for the rest of the season.
Their vibe together, her and Jeremiah, is very like brother, sister, best friend kind of thing. So I think that is the person you want to
call. That
she would want to call.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about this in the second episode, but she's carrying a lot of baggage, and she does just want to try to make it right.
Okay. So what could I ask you here to get you into your Belly and Conrad bag?
Which is really all I want to talk about.
Really all you want to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give some overarching episode 1 takes, reviews, and then I'm going to let you cook a little bit. Go off, Queen, on Belly and Conrad. Episode 1, moved a little bit slow.
Yeah.
All right. Especially when you compare it to like an episode 3.
It's totally a wrap up from last season and setup episode.
Yeah, moved a little bit slow.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. That's one thing. So far, reviews when I looked at last night, pretty good. But yeah, no Cam yet.
No Cam.
No Cam.
Yeah. No beach. No beach at all.
Yep. Good soundtrack. I think we usually talk about the best musical moment. There's only one contender, I think, right here.
Last Kiss, the Taylor Swift song at the end, was great. It was great. I'll fully admit, I missed it.
Okay.
I know that song.
When's it rolling?
I love that song. It's at the end when she is sad in her bed and scrolling through her phone. There's the needle drop.
Oh.
And the lyric in the song is it's 1:58.
Oh,
and then
they do a great job with these lyrics and actual songs. And
yeah, and then it ends on her calling Jeremiah.
So I'm gonna say Olivia Rodrigo still. Do you want to say no?
For best musical moment?
Yeah. Come on.
It's got to be Olivia Rodrigo. It's got to be.
Shouts. Yo, all you guys who filled out bingo, thank you.
Yeah.
I had bingo once I found out that Last Kiss thing was in there, because that was one of the.
He didn't know that it was off
the album
Speak
is that
Now.
Speak Now album.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I got bingo. I don't win though, because
he can't win.
She's the czar of all things bingo, and I lost.
Yeah, like we wouldn't let him win. No.
All right. So episode 1 moves a little slow. And I thought it picked up really fast at the end. It was like kind of drawn out, and then they get to a really exciting moment very fast with Jeremiah and the Conrad's lost and all that. But plot device, we got to leave a cliffhanger. I get it. Why
What
don't
about
you?
why don't you riff a little bit on the Steven stage dive?
Oh God. Okay,
Could have done without it.
if you, I would have when we were driving home from the premiere. I said it was a very drawn out episode, and then they really hit fast forward on that last 30 seconds of Conrad, Jeremiah, and Belly on the phone. They should have dedicated some more time to that last scene and made that a little bit more thick and more rich and kind of expanded on that. And in the theater, I thought the stage dive was bad. And we were discussing, I think that you could cut that scene, give some of that to the ending there, to the phone call, to the. It didn't do anything.
Well, I've rewatched it probably 1.5 more times than you at this point. If you
It's just showing that Steven's a little bit jealous of Taylor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because when they're watching the band, when you look at Steven looking at Taylor,
yeah,
he's like looking at her the entire time. She says, "Oh no, we're soulmates," which is not real.
Yeah.
But you kind of see Steven roll his eyes. It's just a ridiculous.
It's ridiculous because you wouldn't stage dive without everyone. You got to stage dive with everyone paying attention and everyone knowing you're going to
crowd surf. I'm like, well, why don't you get the crowd involved first, dude? Like, he just jumps on top of Belly.
Oh yeah, and Belly. We'll talk about this probably in episode 3, but girl, stop falling down.
Okay, this time she was kind of like landed on.
But we've had 4. There's like a lot of episodes where Belly falls down.
Maybe it's symbolism.
Speaking of scenes,
did we leave anything out?
Did we leave anything out? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Do I have the stage?
You have the stage for as much exposition as you want on the virtues of love and romance.
I may leave all of this in. I'm just gonna go.
Go off.
I'm just gonna go for like 18 minutes. Go. All right. We tried to tell everything chronologically.
Yep, that's a good word.
But one of the beautiful things about this episode
is you.
Thank you. One of the beautiful things about this episode is I was really curious, I think is a good word. Concerned is probably another word, of how they were going to weave in what's happening current and what's happened in the past. And it was excellent. They, at the end, they say that Belly was in love. At the beginning, there's a clear decision between Belly and Conrad to not move forward.
Let's say pause.
Let's just hit pause. We're introduced to their first phone call, which is friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're trying to be friends. And you said this on our breakdown of that first like bonus scene. You're like, I like that Conrad is not trying to be sneaky with it.
Yeah.
He's not, right? Like they're trying to keep it platonic. But then you have them calling each other more and more. So there's 2 other scenes.
The phone conversations are, once you see them in deep thought, great conversation, it's hard to be like happy. It's hard to be like, I wish these 2 not end up together.
Okay, that's my overall take, because I'm like, Gavin's great, and everything that I'm hearing is that he is gonna be there for Belly this season in a way that he's never been before, that their chemistry is gonna build, all of it. But it is impossible to watch the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what team you're on. I don't care which boy you like better. You cannot deny that Belly and Conrad had something real.
Yeah, I mean, Conrad's fine. Like, you saw him all season 1 being a certain way, and now because the love that he's feeling, he's finally being the person that you want him to be.
Yeah.
As a fan and as the...
Yeah, and it happens a couple of times, right? It's not just like that the veil is lifted and now he doesn't not holding on to all this weight. So now he like sees her for the first time. Like he really loves her. And I like that it takes it out of crush. So like season 1, you could easily throw away Belly and Conrad very quickly if it's just like, oh, you have a crush, you get your crush, you realize that your crush isn't really what you thought it would be because the buildup was so strong that it ends up not being real. But it's very real immediately. So when they're doing the scene after they're on the beach, like when he just looks over at her and he's like, you have the prettiest smile. And I've been wanting to tell you that all summer. Like that's something.
Yeah, but you're also like, then why didn't you fucking tell her all summer?
Yeah, no. Well, he takes ownership, right? He's like, even when she's like, well, I thought there could be something between us, but then, you pulled back, and he's like, no, like all my fault.
Yeah, he does a great job because I think it's set up to maybe where she says that she kissed Jeremiah, where he could wild the fuck out, but
like Jeremiah did.
Well, he was first, so in Jeremiah's defense, it was technically cheating, whereas Conrad.
That's true, but he kissed her the day after he saw them almost kiss, where he ruined the moment. So you can't watch them about to kiss, ruin the moment, then kiss her the following day after setting up Nicole. Like,
gotcha.
But I digress.
Listen, Jeremiah is in a much worse spot. Conrad, it's easy to have grace when you're the winner. Okay?
Yeah.
Jeremiah is in the losing position.
Mm-hmm.
He's just getting told that it's out. So he wiles out. That's how that conversation will go.
It's realistic.
It's realistic.
Yeah.
Conrad, you give him credit for not flying off the handle.
Yeah.
Which is possible.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit easier to have that reaction when you know that you have the girl.
Yeah. So scenes aside, though, that's a good point that you bring up. Scenes aside, they make a rational decision to not move forward.
Sure.
But they don't downplay that it's hard for both of them. Right? Like that's always going to be the waiting for the other shoe to drop. Right? Like, yeah, it's like rational and the right thing to do to not move forward. But they almost can't help themselves. So even though they're trying to not sneak around, they're not having conversations late at night. And I love the it's hard to separate them, but I like the laundry one. Yeah.
Then there's the stars one.
Well, it's cool to see them each in their element. Like I was kind of nervous to see Conrad at college just because I didn't know, I didn't know how they were going to possibly show it. And they just show him being a college kid. He's at college, he's doing laundry, he's talking to her on the phone. I like that they're both in their own laundry rooms, sitting onto the top of their
true. And in that scene, I feel like you get a little bit of a peek into Belly's captaincy loss because she's got a big event coming up at 5 a.m. or some shit, and there's going to be a scout there, but she's on the phone with Conrad until 2 a.m. and she wants to stay on the phone, and it's very plausible where she might have missed that event altogether, or she showed up late, slept in.
Well, in season 1, he's such a different version of himself, and I think that's what this is meant to show is when he's happy, when he is with Belly in those flashbacks, it is probably the best version of Conrad anyone could ask for.
Spoiler alert, it goes away quick.
But they do a very, very good job of showing that they're having deep conversations, but also surface level conversations too.
Yeah,
when he's
his roommate's a 5G conspirator.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh, remember when I told you about my friend blah blah blah? Well, it turns out that such and such was already seeing somebody else, right? It's kind of you can tell that they've talked, and they're not just pouring their hearts out to each other.
Talk about your day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then it takes a spin, right, into him confessing to her. He hasn't ever told anyone this before, but he talks about how he actually caught
Adam Fisher cheating.
Well, he caught his mom and Adam in a fight where, and oh my god, that's such a good scene too. That I almost cried there. I almost cried there on the third watch when Conrad is like, Belly, I've never seen her cry like that before. He's like, she was crying so much when they were fighting about her cancer and about, and then he's like, I didn't know what to do. I just like got in my car. I drove around for 2 hours. I came back and pretended I never knew anything about it.
That's what kids do.
That's what kids do. But now knowing that, going back and rewatching, oh, he quit football and how he's being a dick to his dad in the 4th of July episode last season, I buy it. Totally buy it. Like, I wouldn't want to talk to my dad either. Fuck him. So there's that scene, and then there's a stargazing scene.
There is a stargazing scene.
Do you know my favorite part of that? The very beginning part of it?
Was it the Big Dipper?
No. She's like, so I had a weird thought today.
Oh, I love weird thoughts.
I love weird thoughts. Like, it's just cute. Yeah. She goes on to talk about how she's like thinking about her mom and dad's relationship and divorce and all that stuff, and she says, I could never be with somebody who didn't make me feel like electric jolts every time I saw them. And that's where the conversation, right? Like, it starts to move out of like a breaking the rules almost. Like, there's this undertone of like they love each other, but they can't really, but they're talking all the time. So like it happens in the laundry room scene too, where like he's like, oh my god, I gotta let you go, and she's like, 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
and then
volleyball anymore.
And then and then they're talking about the stars, and she literally says like, it's probably against the rules, but I wish that we were watching them together.
I thought he was gonna say we are together.
Yeah, but instead he says something even better. Oh my god, that's a really good part too, where he's like, and Belly, she's like,
I couldn't do it without electric.
Yeah, he says that, but I like when she goes, yes, Conrad. Like, it's so cute. It's so cute.
Belly is,
yeah.
She's got some like classic Belly mannerism. She's like, oh, that's that classic Belly look.
Yeah.
Like in The Office, you have like the classic Jim face.
Yeah.
And like Belly's got a few of those.
Yeah. And then the very last scene, flashback of the two of them together, is because you're led to believe, okay, are they just gonna keep having deep, meaningful conversations and like just like a general understanding that they feel the same way about each other, but they're not gonna do anything about it or make it official? And then he shows up at her door. He's like, happy almost Halloween. It's so awkward.
Yeah, with a bouquet of lollipops.
It's so cute. It's so cute. And
Conrad's great in that scene.
Yeah, you're like, Chris is killing this scene.
Chris was so good.
Chris killed
someone.
He killed all the flashbacks, all the flashback scenes with Belly. Like, the chemistry between those two is like, I don't know about it. It's the writing, it's the delivery, it's the acting, it's everything. But he shows up again. I like that they are not assassinating the Conrad character as much as they did in
because they're checking in on Jer.
Because they're checking in on Jer.
Yeah. He's doing great. Everything's been good since he won Homecoming King. He's dating girls.
Yeah, it makes me feel bad though, because it makes sense that we're gonna see a deeper side of Jeremiah, because they're still all playing it like he's Jer, right?
Yeah,
he's happy about being Homecoming Queen. Like Conrad's all upset about his mom dying and all this stuff, but they just treat Jer like
little guy,
happy-go-lucky, like so innocent, head in the clouds. And it's important to see him as not that before the end of the season. I do agree with that.
Yeah, it's like, you spend your whole life wanting people to take you seriously, and once you're painted in that light,
it's
hard to break out of it.
Yeah, but I do like that they addressed it, and then he just says, I don't know if I can ever get over you, and then she kisses him.
Y'all was wondering where that scene was coming from.
I was. Oh my gosh, I was. And I was wrong. I had 2 takes and they were both wrong. But Conrad showing up at the door saying it
with a lollipop bouquet. Was that on your bingo card?
It was not. But a lot of after the premiere, a lot of fans DM'd us. There's so many good scenes between them, but like the sticking one for a lot of fans was like
lollipop bouquet.
Yeah, like this one fan was like,
it's such a high school thing ish.
Yeah, yeah, but this one fan was like, I went to go see the premiere with my best friend, and I told her I'm gonna go home and tell my husband that he has to get me a lollipop bouquet. I'm like, yeah,
Maybe it's not such a high school thing.
no, no, not at all. So
I'm not a big lollipop person.
I don't care if you get me a lollipop bouquet. Now that I've seen that scene, like,
Yo, there's an episode 3 spoiler that I'm not gonna give out, but one of my favorite artists
Oh,
had a
boy.
scene, had a song in there.
You want to talk about heart palpitations?
And generally, we're not allowed. We don't like listening to. She doesn't like listening to him. But
Guys.
now that
Guys.
he was in episode
Okay.
3, I can sneak that song in at least. You might be able to nail it down if you want to check the spoiler out. If you want to solve our mystery.
Yeah, they already know. Anyway.
But yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I knew about that song, and then they used it. It's almost like two worlds colliding. Because it's like, how could they ever choose a song from that artist?
That literally is how I feel about many of the beat drops. What? Before we talk about the rating, you talked about the pacing, right?
Yeah, pacing was slow.
There was something else that you said right after it ended, which is that half of the fan base.
So let me paint the picture right. We go into the premiere, and initially it's going to be 2 episodes. Episode 1, episode 2. Going in completely blind, not knowing what you're going to expect. You go episode 1, and it's literally a Conrad and Belly love fest with no Jeremiah to be seen, except for the one fighting scene. So most of these people don't know that there's that episode's canceled. Like, we barely knew, and we follow the shit pretty hard. So episode 1's coming to a close. Jeremiah's nowhere to be found. It's been fucking sexy talk on the phone and making out on the beach. And I'm like, yo, these people don't know that there's not an episode 2. Team Jeremiah's about to riot up in this place.
Yeah.
Because they
got nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing.
They got nothing. And then they were left on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. So I think, Jeremiah is he's pulling himself out of it from what we know so far. So that's good. But
yeah, I was shocked.
It was
I was happy. I was happy for all the Belly and Conrad stuff, obviously, but I think it was so important to showcase where she was at that point in time.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it in episode 2, but almost like the whole Jeremiah and Belly, where they are at this point in their relationship. What we saw is where they are at this point in the relationship. She cut him out. He's not there.
Episode 1, to my forecast, the lowest rated of the 3.
Yeah, you liked episode 1 the least.
The pacing is just slow. Yeah. And episode 3 is the best, just like it says here. So fans know.
Means Casey voted 18 times.
Yeah, I did. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so episode 1, Love Lost. The rating is 8.8, which is higher than any season 1 episode. It's just because there's not a lot of votes yet. But that's good.
But at this point, it includes, yes, like extreme fandom who has already watched it.
Yeah, once like the normies start watching.
But then it also includes critics, right? So
Zoe Cassavetes directed it. There's a famous director named Nick Cassavetes. I wonder if that's they mentioned him in Entourage. I wonder if that's any relation. But sibling. Okay, cool. So she directed it, written by Jenny Han. A lot of fun stuff. It was just great to get the gang back together and see some new content after, all the expectations for the last 10 months.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we get to episode 2?
Final takes, final thoughts. It was a lot of exposition. It needed to happen. Like, if we didn't get that stuff, I'd be disappointed. But the entire episode was sort of like a plot device to catch us up, right? I think it was designed to catch us up, to get us at least emotionally understanding where each of the characters are when we meet them in season 2. It was not a fun episode. It was hard to watch because it was tough emotionally.
But wasn't it fun for the Conrad and Bellies?
It was sweet, and
Okay.
it signified
That they actually had something.
It signified that they actually had something, and it was nice to see it acted out.
Yeah.
Because I would rewatch them over and over and over again. But in the book, you don't get every phone conversation. So the fact that they spliced in and created new content for those two made it feel a lot more real. And one nitpick I always had with the book, which I thought was more or less just like Conrad not being open about his love for Belly, and Belly just overthinking fucking everything. Where she's like, a big theme of the second book is, were we really something? Were we not something? Were we even boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yeah.
Does anyone know about us? How does he really feel about me? It ended so quickly. I think it's pretty evident as viewers, even if she's overthinking it now that everything's fucking fallen apart.
Yeah.
There's love there. There's like real deep love and connection there.
You just hope she can see it, because you know a lot of times people can see it, but we're mean to ourselves.
Yeah. That's true.
Last take before we go.
Or you rewrite the narrative, right? Like based on all the shit that happens thereafter. Like I think she kind of rewrites the narrative in her head to make herself feel better.
Yeah.
About it all like crashing. Yeah.
6 months from now, when you wanted to rewatch the show, I think we're gonna skip over episode 1.
This one's not fun.
It's not a fun watch.
It's not fun.
So,
but
I'll be like episode 3, because it's gonna get fun. It's gonna get really fun, especially after 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So it seems like, but
yeah, I mean, I would go back and rewatch all the Belly and Conrad scenes, and then I would go back and rewatch the last.
I think
I would go back and rewatch like the last 10 minutes.
Just good clips.
Wherever the fight is happening.
Yeah.
I love the fight. I love watching Belly make a fool of herself with Corey.
Yeah.
And I like the beat drop at the end.
Okay.
I'd probably skip over the Belly and Laurel fight just to keep all that package together.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for listening here. We're gonna get right into season 2. So
no costume changes.